Once you've cast on all of the stitches you need, you'll be ready to begin the pattern. Now the pattern that we're going to be working on is the ribbing stitch. Now there are different ribbing stitches you'll find in different patterns. Sometimes they'll have you knit 2 and purl 2, sometimes it will be knit 3, purl 3, knit 1, purl 2, something like that. The general rule with ribbing is that you will be alternating back and forth between a knit and a purl stitch. By doing that, it adds an extra tension and it makes it so that it kind of squeezes in. It's a good thing to do at the bottom of a sweater, like we mentioned before, and this is going to be the wrist portion of our mitten. So we're ready to begin, and on our pattern, we will be knitting 2 and purling 2 stitches at a time, and we will do that across the entire row. So we'll begin here with the knitting. So we'll knit 1 stitch, knit 2. Now this part is a little bit tricky and I haven't explained this before. When you are changing back and forth between knitting and purling, you need to make sure that your yarn that's being fed in is in the right location. As we've discussed earlier, when you're knitting, the yarn is always coming from behind, and when you're purling, the yarn is always coming from in front. So now that I've done 2 knit stitches and I'm ready to purl, I need to first bring my yarn to the front of the needle, and then I can begin my 2 purl stitches. So now I will do 2 purl stitches. There's 1 and 2. And now before I'm ready to do my knits again, I need to take my yarn to the back of the work. Now I will knit 2, 1 and 2. I will bring my yarn back around to the front, and then I will purl 2, there's 1 and 2, and I will continue in this fashion all the way across the row. Now this is probably a good time to discuss the yarn that I'm using. You may notice that the yarn that I'm using today is kind of bumpy. That's because it's a textured yarn. There are lots of different yarns that are available, and a textured yarn is a little bit softer. It adds a little bit of thickness to your finished project, and so that's why I chose to use a textured yarn today. The project will work out just fine with a regular sport weight yarn or a regular worsted weight yarn as well. As you're working across the row, don't forget to check your yarn placement before switching from knitting to purling or back again. Otherwise, you'll be increasing or decreasing stitches. Once you've completed your first row, you'll remember that you just ended with 2 purl stitches. In order to maintain the pattern for the ribbing, if you've just purled, that means you need to begin with knits, okay? If your pattern worked out so that you ended with knit stitches, when you begin the second row, you will begin with purls. Just like when you were doing the stocking stitch, you want to make sure that one side is knits and the other side is purls of each section going across. That's how your ribbing will work out. All right, since mine ended on purl stitches, I will begin with knit stitches. Because if you remember when we talked in the beginning, knits on one side are the same as purls on the other. So go ahead and continue across this second row. Knit 2, purl 2, or maybe you're starting with purls and you'll purl 2, knit 2. But do that all the way across the second row. Go back and forth and continue in this fashion until the entire piece measures 2.5 inches. Once you've completed your first 2.5 inches, it should look like this. You'll have alternating sections of knits and purls, and it'll come all the way across like this. Now you're ready to change needles, and in order to change needles, all you do is you switch the first needle. You'll transfer all of the stitches onto this one as you continue across in the same pattern, and then once you've finished, you'll discard this second needle and bring in your other needle of the same size. So now we're going from size 9s to size 7s. You're going to continue in the same stitch with the new set of needles until the total piece measures 5 inches from start to finish. So go ahead and continue changing your needles until your piece measures a total of 5 inches from start to finish.
Thanks for watching. Click on the next step or replay to watch another video, and please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can also visit AmericanKnitter.com to purchase the knitting DVD set.